So I have two moms, and they used a sperm donor, so I was donor conceived, and I found out when I was 17 that I had a lot of half siblings, and at that time the number was like 16. Since then we found out about 9 more.
Wow.
So I think we're up to like 25. His wife doesn't know. He donated a lot of sperm.
Wait, he's married and his wife doesn't know?
His wife doesn't know. He donated a lot of sperm in the 90s. And it was, I guess, potent, but they used it a lot. And I don't think he
had some of that potent stuff.
Yes, he was like a super producer, basically. The lesbian community was pretty tight at that time, and all these people's kids are hanging out together, and they're finding out that they have the same dad.
That's so crazy.
It's crazy, and it's also like when you get older, something that I have to deal with is when I start dating somebody, I have to be like, let me see a picture of your dad. Let me make sure you look like your dad.
That's crazy.
Like, he's decided he's not open to meeting us, which is hard because I didn't find that out until I was about 18. And up to that point in my life, I had been told that eventually I would get to meet him, you know? And in spite of that, my parents were still kind of like, what's the big deal? Like, why do you care?
How did that make you feel?
It was...
Please, let's be honest.
It was...
You don't have to try to defend your parents right now. We know that you love them.
Yeah.
But express yourself.
It was...
What's up, YouTube? Guys, if you ever need to reach out to me, follow me on IG at Marcus the Interviewer. Now back to the content. What's up, YouTube? Atlanta Street Interviews, out here with the special. So guys, you know, I love Arden's Garden Smoothies, and so this young lady here is, you know, she's always here when I come and get my smoothie. She's a beautiful energy, beautiful young lady. And so she is looking to get into film and sociology and things like that. So we're going to interview her and allow her to have her first piece of content. All right, so I don't even know if this is gonna end up on my channel. I think it's gonna end up on hers, but we'll see. All right, so how you doing today?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm doing great, so okay, so, you know, so you work here at Arden's Garden. How old are you?
I'm 22.
22. And so how long have you been working here?
I've been at this location just a couple months, but I was at the Athens location for 2 years.
Okay, Athens. And so were you a student out there? And,
yes.
Okay.
I was at UGA.
UGA, hey man.
Right.
Shout out all them Bulldogs, man.
Back to back.
Back to back champs.
During
Let's get
years,
it.
That was really exciting.
That's like the best, right?
Yes, I really lucked out.
What were those nights like when y'all won the championships? Like,
so the first night I was asleep. The first time it happened, I was asleep, but luckily I got a do-over. And when it happened, like, it wasn't even the end of the game, but I was at like a watch party, and we all walked down to downtown, and it was insane. People were ripping trees out of the ground.
Trees out of the ground.
People were setting things on fire. People were shaking signs. It was
hey man, I love it.
thing.
I love it, man. Football town for sure,
yes.
man. All right. And so, you know, so what did you go to school for?
Film and sociology.
Okay, so
I
film
started
and sociology.
with film, and then I added the sociology. And I kind of would like pick up one and drop the other a couple times, but ultimately I double majored.
Okay, so double major. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
And so, you know, we got to talking, and you actually have a fairly interesting background.
I do.
So tell us about it.
So I have two moms, and they used a sperm donor, so I was donor conceived, and I found out when I was 17 that I had a lot of half siblings. And at that time the number was like 16. Since then we found out about 9 more.
Wow.
So I think we're up to like 25.
You've got 25. You got a quarter century's worth of half siblings.
Yeah.
Jesus. How have you met any of them?
I have. I've met, I don't know how many. I'd say like about 7 tops. One of them I'm really close to. My younger sister Kyla, we hang out a lot. We're the 2 youngest, and you know, she's become one of my best friends, and I think
do you
that's
guys look alike?
Things. We look exactly the same. It's weird. Well, she's shorter than me, but it was bizarre meeting her for the first time, kind of knowing that there was somebody that looked exactly like me that had just been walking around Atlanta.
Wow.
And
that's crazy, because you have a unique look. I can't quite put my finger on it. It's kind of exotic.
That's what people say. At this job especially, I've had people ask me, people think I'm like Middle Eastern or Latina or Jewish or something. Obviously in a small percentage because I'm pretty white. But at the end of the day, I'm just white.
Well, you are. Well, right, because like I say, you have this look. And so you're saying that both of your biological parents are white?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it almost, it's almost this kind of almost, you could tell that it's Caucasian, but it's racially ambiguous still.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
And, yeah, a lot of my siblings look even more, I guess,
exotic,
ethnic.
Right? Yeah, okay.
Like my sister, I don't know. I think it comes from, I guess, the French. Like, there's a really teeny tiny percent of like Middle Eastern that I think actually most people have, just like by chance. But yeah.
Wow. So okay, so when you found this information out at 17, what was your reaction? Like, how did you feel? What was you thinking? What was your thoughts?
I was really excited. So I had always known that I was donor conceived. Obviously, that wasn't really something my parents kept from me. It's something they told me really outright before I asked, because, I think they knew I was going to go to elementary school and I was going to see other people had dads, and I was going to be like, what's up with that? But I had never really thought of the half-sibling idea. For some reason, I don't know, it was like my brain was blocking it or something. Like it didn't occur to me until I met up with a friend that I had when I was little, who, her parents, she also had two moms. Her parents had used a sperm donor as well, and she was talking about meeting her half-siblings. And I was like, oh, I had never really
like
thought about that.
light bulb
right.
moment.
And she was like, have you connected with your half-siblings? I was like, no, I didn't really know I had any. So I went onto this website, the donor sibling registry, and it is $100, but I paid just to see. And there were a few names that came up, and it was crazy. I was sitting there like shaking. I was texting my mom being like, what is going on? And then within a couple days, I had gotten an email back from one of my sister's moms. And they kind of, once I started meeting, at that time there was only a few that were open to communication. Once I started talking to them and getting like the whole history, it just became, I don't know, like, it's mind-blowing. It's like, it's really, there's not a good word for it. It's something that you really don't understand unless you're in that specific situation. Like, it's not like adoption. It's not like finding out like that your dad had an affair or something. It's something that's totally on its own, and I had never really heard anybody talk about it.
Well, I was about to say, one of the reasons why I suggested that we do this interview is because essentially you're in the first wave, the first wave of generation of adults now, young adults that were conceived this way.
Yes.
And so, we were talking about some of the ethical, complications that may arise and things like that. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think, and people are starting, there is a community on Instagram of people that are my age or a little bit older. It is like, I'd say most of us are under the age of 30.
Right.
It's really just in the last like 30 years that this has become more common. But there is a big push online, mainly to end donor anonymity. My biggest problem with, or ethically, is that adults that buy sperm or eggs tend not to think about how the child is going to feel when the child grows up, which is understandable because, a lot of the time it's gay parents or people that struggle with infertility, and it's sort of just this huge blessing that you would be able to sort of conceive a child on your own in spite of whatever challenge biologically you're facing. But they don't think about the fact that the child is going to grow up and naturally be curious about the other half of their of their DNA biologically. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean, I think most of us would vouch that we've had incredible upbringings. Most of my siblings, I think, everybody has problems with their parents, but none of us had like a horrible childhood where we wished that there was somebody else or something like that. It's not like that. My parents gave me everything I could ever need, and my parents are the best parents in the world, but it's like, no matter how good they are, it's still going to be like, who's this guy? And when I ask my parents about it, when a lot of people ask their parents about it, the response is often like, I don't understand. I'm so grateful to have you. You should be grateful to be alive. And why are you asking me these questions? Am I not enough? Or,
So they take it defensively.
Yes, automatically. And I understand, especially from the perspective of like my mom that's not biologically related to me. She got a little defensive. She was kind of like, I tried to do like dad things with you. And I'm like, it's not about that. It's something that you don't understand until it's happening, because this guy, so first of all, like stepping back, he said on his paperwork that he would be open to meet us when we all turned 18. And since then, he has taken that back. He's decided he's not open to meeting us, which is hard because I didn't find that out until I was about 18. And up to that point in my life, I had been told that eventually I would get to meet him, And in spite of that, my parents were still kind of like, what's the big deal? Like, why do you care?
How did that make you feel?
It was...
Please, let's be honest.
It was...
You don't have to try to defend your parents right now. We know that you love them.
Yeah.
But express yourself.
It was... sad. It was disappointing, but I'm not deterred because this sounds kind of antagonistic, but there's just so many of us. Some of us have tried to reach out. We know him. We know his name from one of the parents. She had, sought him out when her kids were really young, which has its own ethical problems. But we know his name. We know where he lives. It's only a matter of time before one of us is going to break the
barrier and
possibly mess up his life is the thing, because his wife doesn't know. He donated a lot of sperm.
Wait, he's married and his wife doesn't know?
His wife doesn't know. He donated a lot of sperm in the 90s. And it was, I guess, potent, but they used it a lot. And I don't think he
had some of that potent stuff.
Yes, he was like a super producer, basically. And it was flying off the shelves, and they sold it all up and down the East Coast. Like, I've got.
You must have had some really good genes too, like,
yes,
because they must have been very desirable genes.
Yes, because he is like really intelligent. He's a musician, which everybody loves, and he's handsome, And I mean, mainly people were seeing that again and again and again. People were able to have kids within the few first times.
Tries with him, right?
So, but he did this all before he got married.
Yeah.
But he never brought it up to his wife, and now it's like 25 years later since he stopped. His wife doesn't know. They've been together for, I think, like 20 years, and it's kind of like at this point, apparently it would mess up his life, which is frustrating because it's like,
well, what about your life?
What about my life? Exactly. That's the thing, is what about my life? I mean, what about my parents?
I mean, do you want to say his guy's name?
No, I can't.
Okay.
I can't. Okay. Because the thing is, he was really active in Atlanta, and a lot of people knew him. I found out that I had met him because he had been friends with one of my mom's
You had met him?
I've met him when I was really young. Nobody in the situation understood that he was the donor.
Did he know that he was your dad?
We don't know.
How did you meet him?
He was, so my stepmom, this woman that was my stepmom, my mom's ex-girlfriend, continued to owns a restaurant. At this time it was pretty popular. And he had known her back in the day because he used to like deliver coffee for her and stuff like that in her other business ventures. And he came in to her restaurant to see her. He came in with his wife. And my stepmom at the time was like, oh, brought over me and my mom was like, this is my old friend so-and-so, and we met him. And then years later, I came up to her when I found out his identity, and I was like, yeah, we found out who it is. It's this guy named blank, blank, blank. And she was like, she sat me down, she was like, you've met him, I know him. He used to, what's crazy is I was working at one of her other restaurants at the time that had used to be a different restaurant, and he used to work at that restaurant. So we had worked in, I had worked in the same building as him, 20 years apart.
Wow.
And
so, I mean, I find it challenging to understand why your parents would not understand why you don't want to know where half of your DNA comes from.
Yeah.
Why you don't want to feel more connected to that.
Yeah.
That's just natural human nature.
It is.
So I'm trying to figure out why do you think they can't get that?
I think part of it has to do with, I don't know, the process of conception was really hard for my parents. My mom, my mom spent a lot of money and a few years trying over and over again to have a baby. And when they had me, luckily for me, I was like their world and everything was about me. And I'm an only child. And I'm really close with my parents. And they worked really hard to give me everything I want. And I think they were so proud of themselves also for being lesbian parents, because they are a success story in that, they're not together anymore, but they're best friends, and I know they'd do anything for me. And I think it just kind of threw a wrench into their perception of maybe
themselves.
Our family unit and themselves. And I think it's possible that maybe they were proud that they did kind of feel like they had done it all by themselves. And so to hear that, I'm kind of wondering, where is the other person? They weren't thinking about the other person. It was about them.
So I mean, it's some of this, and correct me if I'm wrong, of course, but is some of this, kind of extreme feminism that doesn't want to admit that men are needed and, kind of important.
Yeah.
That type of deal.
I wouldn't say that, because I have siblings who have a dad that they're not related to, and he had just struggled with fertility. And I think they faced the same thing, where, for them, using a sperm donor was not sort of like a feminist, women do it by themselves thing. And I don't think that's what my parents did either. I think they just really wanted a child. I think it would be the same if they had not been able to conceive at all, and if they had adopted a child. I think it would be the same.
They're the same kind of like, why do you want to know your parents?
Yeah, because I think they're
you
blinded.
Think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because my parents aren't, like, in spite of being lesbians, they're not super hyper feminist people. That is not really where they're, I guess, I mean, they're definitely are feminists.
But like not the super.
Okay,
yeah. I get it.
I think it's just the fact that it's not them. I think that's hard for them. They've gotten more open to it over the years, but I think I can understand where to them it might be kind of, I don't know if heartbreaking is the right word, but just sort of disheartening that I would still have the question.
I fully understand why they would feel that way, but honestly, as them being the parents and the kind of the people that have been here on Earth longer, and therefore should kind of be a little more wiser, right? Should have a little more wisdom. They should understand why you would want to seek out the other half of your biological makeup.
Yeah.
To me, that just, it doesn't seem like a far thing to have to understand. Like, anybody would want to understand that. That's just kind of how we all are. We want to know where we came from. That's just how humans are. Naturally.
And it's the same thing, it's the same discourse that's going on a lot with adopted children. A lot of people are, and the adoption thing is a whole different thing, because a lot of the times that has to do with like sort of an issue of like
with
racial identity when it's adoption.
Racial identity, all type of stuff. We've got many of adoptions on our channel.
Oh, yeah.
One of the most famous ones is the twins that was adopted in Chicago. Mm-hmm. They were adopted at 4. They had pretty terrible adopted parents. Mm-hmm. And at 18, on their 18th birthday, the adopted parents took them from Chicago, drove them down here to Atlanta to live in a homeless shelter.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing.
So, yeah, you definitely have a lot of mixed situations, is I guess what I'm saying.
And obviously my life has been a million
lot
times
better than that. Right.
And I will not pretend to understand. But the crossover is the idea of something that is more serious with adoption than donor conception, but the idea is the buying and selling of a human life and the treating of a child, or even just the sperm as a product, because it's going to create a life. Mm-hmm. And it also comes down to, specifically with sperm donation, something that I saw a lot at UGA was billboards and signs and all kinds of stuff urging college students to donate sperm. And it's kind of like, there's one on Broad Street in Athens that's like, or maybe it's Atlanta Highway, I don't know. It's one of the main streets, just down the street from campus. Giant sign. It's a guy holding up a giant wad of cash, and it's like, donate sperm now. And
how did that make you feel when you would see that?
It was, part of it was funny, but part of it was really frustrating, because it's not like that. It's not free money. It's going to create a child, and no matter how perfect that child's life is, they're going to wonder. They're going to hunt you down eventually. It's going to create not only 1 or 2 kids. People don't understand that they're pretty, I think they're tightening it up a little bit lately, but I know when I was conceived, it was a really big deal with this particular sperm bank, because they were just giving out so much of it, and so much of it in the same area. Like, a lot of us are from Decatur. Some of my brothers and sisters knew each other.
Shout out.
Yeah.
The east side, man.
Yeah.
Shout out Decatur, Georgia.
Decatur.
Yes, sir. That's where I'm from.
Well, yeah. And so, you know that has a really liberal atmosphere.
Yeah.
And that the lesbian community
Agnes
at
Scott.
that time,
It's Agnes Scott College,
exactly.
you know what I'm saying?
The lesbian community was pretty tight at that time, and all these people's kids are hanging out together, and they're finding out that they have the same dad.
That's
And
so crazy.
it's crazy. And it's also like, when you get older, something that I have to deal with is when I start dating somebody, I have to be like, let me see a picture of your dad. Let me make sure you look like your dad.
That's crazy.
Like,
so wait, so hold on. Do you date?
I do, but I don't, like, we have to make sure that we don't, like, you have to make sure you don't accidentally, like, do incest, because there's so many of us around.
Well, you know one way to prevent that, right? You can date black guys.
I have black siblings. That's the thing.
Wait, what?
I have a couple sisters that are
Half
mixed.
biracial.
Yeah, that they had a black mom and they used white sperm.
Lord.
Yeah. So nothing is
Well,
safe.
okay, so
Nobody's
look, no biracial guys. They gotta be dark like me, okay?
Okay, yeah, I'll remember that.
Then
I'll
you'll be
remember
good.
that.
You'll be good.
'Cause there's no chance that
right.
they would have been. Yeah, but
I'm
that's the
just
thing.
messing with
No,
you.
I know, but it's something I thought about. Like,
No, that is something that I didn't even think about. That, like, yeah, like if you're out here dating and some guy that you think is attractive and handsome, and you gotta be like, hey man, let me see your dad real quick,
Right.
man. Like, let me make sure.
especially if he's like dark haired and white, and so that's always my first thing. It's like, it's kind of awkward to bring it up and be like, let me see a picture of your dad. But usually I'm more straight up than that. Usually I'm like, I'm donor conceived. A lot of my siblings grew up in this area. There has been crossover. I need to know that I'm not related to you.
Wow.
Which is a unique thing that people don't really talk about. But the thing is, so like, that's the thing, is when you donate the sperm, it's not just like, I'm jacking off, I'm getting money.
Put in the cup and then I'm out of here,
Yeah.
right? It's like
And I
a
got
whole
$1
life is
million.
created, a whole, a
Right.
whole set of emotions, a whole just set of desires,
Right.
a whole life.
Right, and the thing is, you can put yourself as anonymous, but that does not, the biggest push in the community, like legislature-wise, and they're making good progress for this in England right now, is to remove anonymity. You have to be open to meeting the child when they're 18, because that's just
Completely unfair.
I mean, it's a right at the end of the day to know.
Where you come from.
And it's just, it comes down to just a lack of, what frustrates me most is that I know my parents love me. They did not think about
All of these future
They didn't
implications.
think about the implications. They didn't think about the questions I was going to have. And, I understand why they would assume we'll give this kid an incredible life and everything will be good. And I mean, generally everything is good, but you can't blame me for wondering. Especially
Well, how
when
does that make you feel?
it makes me feel, I don't know. Really, it makes me feel determined, is what I would say. I think it makes me feel a little angry, but I kind of use that anger to push me, and I just remind myself that it's only a matter of time.
Anger towards...
Anger, I mean, I would say more towards him than my parents, because he said that he'd be open to meeting us.
And then he took that back?
Yeah. And
So I can see that really makes you feel away.
yeah. And it's just, I don't know. And it's also frustrating, like, talking to, like, my mom's ex-girlfriend that knew him, and the mom, one of my brother and sister that are full siblings, their mom, whenever these two people have talked to me, they're like, he's the sweetest guy. He's so kind-hearted. he's so wonderful. And then I'm like, I don't know how to
was he
reconcile that with him being
not
like,
wanting to meet the kids
Yeah.
that he basically, you know, was
and it's not
responsible.
only something he owes to us, it's something he owes to the parents, because as weird as my parents are about it now, part of the reason they picked him is because he said he would be open. So to be able to like pull that back is kind of ridiculous. And if it hadn't been for this encounter with one of the other moms with him when her kids were very young, which, you know, when we really get down to it, that probably is part of the reason he doesn't want to talk to us, because she did something brash. But
What did she do?
she was upset that she was kind of upset. She wanted to sue the bank for malpractice because so many kids in her neighborhood had the same dad as her kids. And so she started going around, when you pick the donor, you get a picture. She started going around with that picture being like, do you know this guy? Do you know this guy? Do you know this guy? And eventually somebody's like, oh yeah, I know him. He works over there. So she cornered him at his job, and she was like, I'm suing the sperm bank. Are you in? And he was like, I think that spooked him, because he was basically like, please don't contact me again. And that's a whole different story. But we think that also might be part of the reason he's scared, because she came in so hot a little bit.
Yeah, that could definitely do it.
What was the question? I totally lost my train of thought, because that's kind of a big part of the lore of the whole situation too. Because she is really adamant that we don't reach out to him. Even though she's the mom that
had kind of went
tracked him
crazy.
down.
Okay.
Yeah. But, and how we found out who he is she still remembered his name. Every couple years she would Google him, and she would save pictures. So she had more recent pictures to show to us. So immediately all of us, we didn't talk about it at all. But anybody who got these pictures, the first thing they did was put it in Google reverse image search. It's like, if you ever, I learned it from Catfish, but I think a lot of people know it from Catfish, actually. Have you ever watched Catfish?
Yeah, definitely.
So good.
Of course.
Yeah, like you plug it in, you see where it's from, and there's his name. And so if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't really know his name.
So let me say this, right? So, you know, who knows where or how this video may get spread, right?
Yeah.
But if he were to happen to be watching this video right now, do you have a message for him?
I'd say, I know you have a son with your wife. Doesn't your son want to know that he has all these half siblings? We want to meet him. We want to know him. Because we're a family, you know, we all have a big group chat together and we talk, and whenever people are in Atlanta, I try to hang out with them. We meet up in different cities. Think about your son if you don't want to think about yourself, and also think about your parents, because wouldn't they want to know that they have like 26 grandkids? And also, one of my sisters has had a baby. Don't you, I mean, you're biologically your grandfather, and biologically your parents are great-grandparents. Don't they deserve to know on some level? Like, that's exciting. Even if it's not like your child, you're not our dad, and you're not that kid's grandpa. But I think it's,
well, let's be honest.
crazy.
Would you like to have a relationship with him?
I would love to, and I know it wouldn't be like a,
like daughter, dad?
yeah,
per se,
no, I'm not
but-
gonna call him dad or anything, but just to meet him, because I think, you know, based on what we know about him, I think he would be really proud of who all of us are. I think ultimately it's kind of insane and incredible, and it should be exciting to think that you have these 25 kids that are all half you, and they're all their own person, but I think there are parts of him that really shine through in all of us. He was really intelligent, and he's a great musical talent from what we can tell, from what we've heard, because he was big in Atlanta, big on the scene, and
What type of music did he do?
He does, like, it's like real experimental, I would say.
Okay.
But he does, like, he plays guitar, he plays the saxophone.
Artsy.
And, yeah,
I
he's
get it.
artsy, and all
Atlanta's
of us
an
are
artsy
artsy.
town.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think all of us, even if our parents weren't artsy, my parents are artsy, so I kind of had a leg up. But all of us turned out kind of artsy. Most of us play a musical instrument. A lot of us are in science, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, he's keeping this secret from his wife. I know that's weighing on him, because some of us have emailed him and he's had to hide that.
Well, I was about to say, you know, that's one of the reasons why, you know, people think that I'm just trying to be messy sometimes, right? But I'm telling you, sometimes being messy, it may be messy at first, but it cleans everything else up.
That's the thing, exactly.
And so it's like, yeah, you know, I get it, you know, you don't want to put his name out and everything else, but sometimes, man, you got to just knock stuff over, man, and then let it build back up the way that it's supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I get it, but you know, I mean, hey, if we put this on my channel and it's got a little bit of reach, you know what I'm saying?
But another thing is there have been a lot of lawsuits about people that have put the guy's name, that have put the donor's name out with other donors, not our situation, but legally it's a sticky situation.
Is that right?
Yeah. But, you know,
I ain't worried about being sued.
Well, I am, because it would come against us, and I mean, it
I
could
ain't
come
mad
against
at
like the sperm bank. My parents, I think more specifically, I feel like it could come against the woman that tracked him down, because she gave us all his name. But it's like, it's only a matter of time before it does get messy on our own terms, because there's 25 of us.
It's just gonna happen. It's not a matter of
we all have his parents' Facebook.
If, it's a matter of when.
Yeah, we have his parents' Facebooks. We have his work email. You know, it's only a matter of time. You know, and what's stopping us is that we care not to ruin his life.
Right.
Because it wouldn't ruin his life, but it would really mess it up. For
it would. Listen,
while.
but here's the thing I'll say about that. Right. We only have one life to live.
Yeah.
This ain't no practice life. Okay, so the longer that he goes holding this in, keeping this a secret, living with the anxiety of, like you say, lying to his wife and everything else, that's not a good life.
No.
So you're not ruining anything that's good, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It may be structured, but it's not good.
Yeah.
Okay, so honestly, tearing down that non-good structure and allowing the life to build back up the way that it's maybe that's in truth, it's probably gonna be the best thing for everybody.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's true.
I'll leave that there.
Yeah.
I'll leave that there. All right. Well, listen. So your name is Juno?
Yes.
Okay, Juno. It was so much of a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
I don't know again where this is gonna end up, but wherever it ends up, I'm sure that it'll be entertaining and educational for folks and everything else. So I really appreciate you. All right.
Of course.
And we definitely wish you nothing but the best. Okay.
Thank you.
Make sure you have a good one, sweetie.
Thank you.
All right.